Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DDT Method podcast, and we have a very special episode for you today. Now, I brought you some of the best in all the different realms of health and human performance, and today I'm bringing you somebody that's truly revolutionizing the industry and somebody that's been around for a while doing things what you might consider against the grain, but that all depends on what angle you're coming from. Now, you might know this man as the inventor of the BOSU ball. You might know him as the all-encompassing god of human movement. It all depends what angle you're coming from. But ladies and gentlemen, today I have the honor to sit down and talk to Mr. David Weck. And before I rant any further, David, in your own words, can you give us a little bit of background on just what it is that you do and how your methodologies have evolved over the years into what you're doing now?
Okay, so basically I'm the lucky little mouse who found a pail of cream, and I just churn with the faith that I could turn it into butter and butter everybody's bread. So now you got I made a calculation when I invented the BOSU ball. I strategically licensed it to buy my time, and then I invested in my education. I loved football more than anything else when I was growing up. I was good enough to play in Division III because there is no Division IV. So the meeker you are, the more strategic you have to be if you want to compete with the better men, right? If you can run faster than me, you're stronger than me, I better have some tricks up my sleeve that you're not yet privy to, because as soon as you're privy to the advantage, well, then we go right back to where we were. Bigger, all things equal, is better. Stronger, all things equal, better, right? So I'm a realist who played football, and my mentality was this New Jersey just is. I am willing to sacrifice myself as a sophomore center on that kickoff. I am busting the wedge, and I'm getting up, and I'm chasing the guy down the field to tackle him and get my picture in the paper, all right? Injury or death was superior to failure because you got to watch the game film. Oh, and when you're in college, when you're a defensive back, if you make a mistake, everybody knows that you made a mistake. So that humiliation, it was too much for my fragile ego to handle. So I worked very, very hard in football in college. I studied the X's and the O's more than anyone else. It was 16 millimeter black and white film, reel to reel. My first 2 years, I would watch so much film in the coach's office. I would take a projector to my dorm room and study the X's and O's. So I see a play from 10 years ago from Trinity College. And guess what? I'm now privy to that play. Oh, I see the play. It's the second half, so I'm interpreting audibles. I was an interception specialist because I was using this to put my, B+ level athletic body in the right position to make big plays, right? Win games, right? So that tenacity is where I came from. Now, I pursue acting for 7 years. I rollerblade for 6 years. I don't walk for 6 years in Manhattan because you can skate the whole thing. It's all paved. And I had a ton of fun doing it, was jumping over, riding half pipes next to Yankee Stadium and hanging onto cars, going downstairs. So I like action. Some of the best things, I put ELO in my headphones back there, and I just danced down 9th Avenue and just cutting it up. But my feet got so weak that when I dropped my motorcycle and wrenched it up, my back twinged, and then 3 days later, it was chronic pain that I did not know how to get rid of. And if it had happened today, I'd have it better by tomorrow. You know what I mean? If you know what to do, it's a big difference than not knowing what to do. So I spent a year in chronic pain. I was drinking a lot of alcohol because I was an actor. I was waking up at 5 a.m. to go personal train. So both ends of the candle and the middle, I'm burning it. And in order to keep going, I bought Aleve, the little bottle of naproxen. Well, I bought the bottle that was that big, and they were Tic Tacs because I didn't care. I'm go. So anyway, that put me up against the wall. I discovered the stability ball of all things, and I start using it, and creating these little writing reflexive actions that have a way of resetting little tonic muscles in the spine that may be freaking out and incapable of not freaking out because your feet are so weak that you're not giving the upper body even a chance to not be apprehensive to the ground. We got to drop. Athletes don't fall. We drop into balance, right? A cat is never out of balance. A dog's never out of balance. A bear's never out of balance. Caterpillar's never out of balance. A human being should never be out of balance unless there's an external force acting upon that human being. And what happened is exercise science, okay, like the biomechanics and like that kind of stuff, turns out that that is the softest of soft science, because they say it's stiffness of the spine, immobilized, rigidified in neutral. The core doesn't generate power. It's only the hips and the shoulders. If you're going to play the deadlift, bench, and squat game, then I'll support you and I'll make you stronger at those activities with my work. But the instant you start telling us that we got to stay stiff and to move our body, you are now misinforming the population. And what happened with the BOSU ball was 2007, when this core stability equals spinal stiffness and rigidity. In order to boost that narrative, what happened was the BOSU ball. Right? Oh, unstable surfaces make healthy athletes weaker. We have the science. They ran a very famous experiment. This is the one that their entire argument hinged upon. And it was done by a really good guy who didn't want the BOSU ball to take all the slings and arrows because he has integrity. But the others in science took this study, 19 soccer players, they stood on little Dynadiscs, half of them, and then they lifted weights. And there's not enough time in that period of time and each day for you to get comfortable on things where you break your ankle if you're going to jump on it. The nervous system's smart and it knows, like, you're freaking out. And if you were to put those Dynadiscs up on top of a basketball rim, then nobody would stand on it because you'd be falling off and the threat would be real. So anyway, they did this study, and then it was suddenly BOSU balls make healthy athletes weaker. We have fellows at the NSCA, like, going on social media, deliberately posting, guy on a BOSU ball, big red X, this does not make you stronger. Oh, well, thank you. There's certain ways that it makes you invaluably stronger, more resilient, more athletic. And you can reset threat when you have a stable, unstable, where now you're getting the proprioceptive little deviation, but you're able to solve it with tension going down. You're not doing this, because that's what you're born with. Your reflexive response can be cultivated. Your reaction and the reaction time is more sort of set. And there's certain rules. If you study Tony Blauer's stuff, if you freak out because something happened, wah, bah, and he teaches you how to harness that, right, and use it offensively rather than, being a chicken and getting beat up. Or, in that case, a first responder getting shot through the hands, because if I sense the threat, my hands come up and then the bullet goes through here. In the footage, we can see what happened. This is Tony Blauer. So what I did was I licensed the BOSU ball. It gave me unprecedented time to study movement. I'm a B+ athlete. I try harder. Because if I were B-, I wouldn't have enough. And if I were A or A+, then I wouldn't have the motivation. Right? Bo Jackson didn't even exercise. I heard he gave a speech at the keynote at NSCA one year, stood up on the dais. He said, I never trained, and walked off. And God gave him big cat. So anyway, where I'm at now is I have been at this since 1992. I've been in the fitness industry, training people. And then 1999, I invent the BOSU ball. I worked 3 years of all the time on the road, 25 weekends, doing all the trade shows, flying out here, there to meet, strength coach for Yankees, Lakers, Devils, Rams, the championship teams, selling them prototypes. And this was when the stability ball sort of at its crest in popularity. These fitness conventions, you'd have 300 inflated balls in a room and everybody bouncing around to exercise. And that doesn't exist anymore because it went out of vogue. And the pendulum will tend to go, here and then here, and we got to get it to sort of here. And I've been punched in the face so many times that I interpret Jesus's message of turn the other cheek as they're going to punch me, I'm going to turn my other cheek, I'm going to slip the punch, and now it's my turn. Okay, my turn is, okay, you guys have been slandering and libeling my wherewithal, the BOSU ball, for all these years. And then I, by proxy, become the charlatan. Oh, that guy, he's a, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, the message suffers, right? I don't care about the people. Forget about me. What the hell am I saying and what am I teaching? Is that valuable or not, right? This is the way. It's not a human nature problem. It's a human nurture problem. What has happened is we have weak men rising the ranks and then forming cabals so that, we're going to get Caesar because we can team up and we can et tu brute, put that knife in the liver. Oh, yeah. You see how it works? It's a bucket full of crabs. And now that I have the truth about locomotion and I'm working with John Brookfield on his rise and restore breathing, I got one breathing and I got two. Because before I need the air, but I ain't got water. I ain't got food. What's the first thing I have to do? I got to get up and I got to go get it. And then I got to carry it back. And that's going to involve some swinging, some throwing, some catching, and some carrying. Okay. And you carry on the high side when you got a deer, whatever the hell you're bringing back for your family. Because when you can align your intent with the infinite focus that who is going to eat tonight and my kids eat before I do. I was an actor, I can make that very, very real. And what that does is it tightens my focus and it makes it crystal clear. And I am proof because of my practice that one can move incredibly well. My balance is ridiculously good. And what it does is it takes my beta B plus body and it levels it up that I can compete with an A if he doesn't do it the way I'm training it. And so anyway, I'm on the cusp now of a universal paradigm shift where the peer review science literally has to do that because Fosbury is how you high jump. They tried to, the people at that time rejected it, ridiculed it. They tried to outlaw it. They were so afraid of it. 4 years after Fosbury set the Olympic gold record, 4 years later, it's a lower Olympic gold and it's the old technique. So, and if in hindsight, that is inexcusable in hindsight. If you're a biomechanist and you're going to deny Fosbury, well, then I cannot trust anything that you say because what you've done is you've demonstrated either dishonesty or ignorance to depths that, shouldn't be tolerable in an honest fitness industry who is the best chance, the most practical chance to defeat big food, big sugar, big pharma, big gov, big everybody. Little fitness can slay Goliath by empowering individuals. All the cool kids in the class, when they can agree and stop the infighting, and you got the smart kids in the class, you got the athletic kids in the class, you got the people who aren't exercising now because the fitness industry tends to beat up anyone, right? It's not a welcoming environment and people don't want to do it in the first place, but they think they have to. And you go to the gym and you do power presses and you wonder why you're, not playing tennis better, right? You wonder why you're feeling stronger, but you're not feeling as confident because balance is a confidence that you cannot purchase it. You can't fake it. I know if you know what you're doing. And if I go to the finest restaurant and you put a piece of dog poo on the plate, I don't care that I can't even see it. If you just even scrape the toothpick where you couldn't even see it, I don't want that dish. I don't trust it. So anyway, It's a paradigm shift that's coming. And now it's just a matter of doing as much good as possible for humankind with this opportunity. It's a once in a species opportunity that a species, God's creatures, could be so smart so as to be so stupid in terms of how they direct their intent. And the athletically intelligent, gifted ones, they do what's athletic and gifted, even though they will tell you themselves, Michael Johnson, the legend, I didn't move my head 90-90, cheek to cheek. Well, Michael, I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry because you don't even understand what you did. And if you did understand what you did, maybe you'd have done better. You certainly wouldn't have done worse. So anyway, long-winded, but I just wanted to say it, put it out on the table, that I am coming with a declaration that it's a new day and anyone who wants to stand in the way, stand in my way.
I love it. I
It's
absolutely love
metaphor.
it.
It's metaphor. Nobody gets hurt. Only egos get bruised. That's the only thing that happens. And adjusted egos, that's the only way to help a bully become the good person that he is and not the weak little wounded child that didn't get the hug when he needed to. So now he's super strong and he's terrified of everything, which makes him an a-hole. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of egos in the fitness industry, so let's see how many egos we can actually bruise today.
Including mine. If you don't have an ego, how are you going to defend what your ideas are? I have an ego and I admit it. And now I have to fulfill the ego or get over my ego. It's very simple. If you have an ego and you get what you want, well, then the ego helped you get what you want. If you got an ego and you're not getting what you want, well, Barry Bonds is the best hitter of all time. There's no second place. Did he have an ego? I mean, his ego is why he doesn't have endorsements. That guy should be a billionaire.
Right, exactly.
And nobody likes him, so whatever. But it don't matter because I'm not the guy on stage. I am the stage. It's my 10 fingers that will make anybody doing anything better. And you don't have to buy anything from me. It's head over foot, rope flow. Now you have force transmission figured out. Build as much strength as you possibly can, right? And if you need performance-enhancing drugs to get even bigger, that's not my concern. Do whatever it is you want, right? You're a human being. I like to do things that aren't good for me. I like cigars. I like sitting in a chair. I'm not going to stop doing those things just because they're not good for me. I'm evaluating my life. I'm making choices, and they're informed choices, what we need. And if you're exercising and nobody's informed you of the simplicity of creating the ultimate foundation, that you're going to do the other 18 hours during the day or 16 hours, however many you're awake but not exercising. And if we tear down the walls between the workout and life, well, now we have a continuity that lets the upper brain and the lower brain reconcile, because if I'm stiff and trying to be stiffer, my lower brain is saying, what in the fuck are you doing to us? And the upper brain's going, I'm being a good little student because if I disobey, I'll be ostracized. And that's no fun. Think about the history of humanity. If you were ostracized, you were dead because no man is an island. And you didn't have more than 135 people in your tribe. So there was no Machiavellian machinations because the group was small enough so that the only thing you cared about was helping the group. That's where it started. And now where has it come is unbelievable technological and convenience innovations that are about to explode, where the future is few chores. And what are you going to get paid to do? Because you ain't driving the UPS truck anymore, and they're flipping the poison at McDonald's and doing that anymore. It's machines. So what does that opportunity give us? It gives us the opportunity, if the citizenry is strong enough to act in their own best interests by playing fair, competing as hard as you can, but cooperating in the sense that this is all metaphor so that we don't have to kill each other like it used to be a long, long time ago. And any empty-handed, any sport that doesn't directly relate to warfare like lacrosse does, lacrosse is like the first warfare game. You have a message, that's the ball. You have to get it over there, and you have a stick, and then the guy over there has a stick, and he's not going to let you get the information over there. All right, well, go, play ball. That's lacrosse. Right? Can you make the cross to deliver the information? And so now with the modern convenience and technology, we have just the blessing and we can engage in frivolity. Who cares about pickleball? I do, right? Who cares about whatever? I do. Back in the old days, nobody cared about any of that stuff because calories were precious, time was more scarce. And, if I have to make the arrowhead before I go kill the animal, I mean, that takes a lot of time. I can't be a great golfer, right? So we have an unbelievable advantage that we can take the intellect plus the artificial intellect, and God knows where it goes, but it has to serve the meat puppet in the here and now for it to be worthy endeavor for humankind. So if it just degrades us, well, then that's not a good choice now for a better future. And what we need is strong men, how much you bench and squat is absolutely irrelevant, because you can be a stronger man who can't squat much than a guy who can squat much, because we're talking about character when we talk about strength. Character is accountability, responsibility. That's what character is. And it's an allegiance to the truth, unless telling a white lie, honey, do I look fat? You have to navigate, right. There's times.
Right, exactly.
There's no time when it comes to the fundamental functions that, are uniquely human.
I think in a lot of cases, it comes down to building that resilience. And if we were to circle or scale it back to training specifically, that in and of itself is a form of physical resilience. So if we were to speak to a more introductory crowd, let's take the opportunity, because we were talking about before, you mentioned empowering the individual. And empowering the individual is what it's going to take to get to that massive paradigm shift that we need to make it to.
Everybody carries their own weight. We cannot have slackers, and the only reason you would slack is, born with it, injured, whatever. We'll help you and carry you, but if you're unwilling to do your part, that's not teamwork, and the dream can't work.
Exactly. So let's empower some of the people that might be coming to this with a baseline of knowledge that was built in ignorance, but not on their own account. Because these days, you open up your phone, you scroll through Instagram, the algorithm is working in and of itself. It's a big system to try to sell you stuff. What ends up happening is we have this giant contingent of intelligent people that are being misdirected potentially.
Yes.
And they're being given information that's not that coherent with their goals, even though they think it is. Yeah. So what we have is this massive space on the internet, a lot of intermediate, intelligent people. That's basically the crowd that watches this podcast, that absorbs my social media and a lot of the social media of the people podcasting with the more popular shows. And what we have, and I don't want to speak to everybody, but if we were to speak in generalities, we have men and women of all ages that want to look better, feel better, perform better, be stronger. And what we have is we have a training modality that's a mix of hypertrophy-based training with some physical performance, and they're meshing stuff together. And what you end up seeing is mundane basic splits that are moving primarily in the sagittal and frontal planes with very little transverse plane movement, very little movement that's actually indicative of what we encounter as actual human beings. And again, it's ending in that stiff and rigid movement throughout the course of everybody's life. So if we were to look at these individuals that might be advanced gym people, quote unquote, that are doing your squat, bench, deadlift, your cable movements, and the stuff that has a time and a place and it has its application.
Yes.
Where are the gaps, the biggest gaps in your opinion, and how do we begin to fill those gaps?
Well, I think first let me say that hypertrophy and nutrition, those are much harder sciences. I mean, there's certain formulaic ways to hypertrophy. You have some, debate about what's the best way, but it's pretty, it's pretty well understood that if you want to make your muscles bigger, here's some protocols that are most likely to do that. Now, I'm a both sides utilized guy. So what I want to do is if somebody, like when I was 14, I just wanted to get bigger and stronger because I wasn't, I just wanted to look better for girls. I wanted to look more intimidating for guys. It's just my natural drives were informing what I wanted. And back in the 1980s, when I'm 14 in 1984, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Flex magazine and all that stuff, I had no interest in looking big, looking like a thick strong. I wanted, ripped strong because I felt that was more attractive. So I think people like that. And a lot of people aren't going to go the intense sports training route. Most won't. So what I say is, force transmission is the king. So we have to balance how you walk in to the gym and out of the gym and within the gym. And we can now use the hard science of hypertrophy to do these patterns that we know are systemically, globally strong with a side-center approach. And then taking all three planes of motion and sort of recognizing that regardless of your emphasis, it's happening in three planes. So let's simplify it to just internal torsion. Think give someone a hug. Think Clark Kent. External torsion, open it up, be Superman. And when I have this and this and this and this, And that's just ingrained in me. And I'm the strongest that I can be at that specific strategy. I will lift heavier weights than had I not gone that approach and, sort of got a case of sagittalitis that you can't use the strength because it's not transmitting clean. And that's going to limit what you could do with the strength. And you're not tapping into the lowest regions of the lat that knit together with the lumbodorsal fascia. I've lost the regular crowd with that statement, if not way earlier. I'll simplify it if I can. But we have to inform the professionals because the professionals are the conduit to the people. And so we can't have a whole bunch of contradictory, conflicting, oh, this is the best. No, this is the best. No, that's the best. It leads to complete and utter confusion and worse results. So what I would say to simplify it is if you learn the fundamentals of comporting your body with perfect balance that is not difficult, it's more natural than being clunky. If you look in evolution, if you look at animals, right? Calories, when they're precious, requires perfect economy. Otherwise, you see, doesn't make new ones. And that's just like, get it down to brass tacks. So what I would say, this is the simple, is whatever your objective is, make sure that you relate to gait, okay, if you want to catch it all. And if you want to sort of go outside the parameters of it's going to make you move better, well, then just have a good reason. You know what I mean? Like, hey, who cares? If you want to deadlift more than Thor, well, maybe you're going to get so big that you can't move as athletically. But who cares? You're going to be a legend and you're going to set the deadlift record. Like, that doesn't mean if I got to sacrifice, walking up the stairs is difficult. Well, okay. 2-3 years after that, lose the weight, be like Mark Bell, and get ripped and tan and rich. Right? I mean, I love winning. I love winning. And the best win is when you align win-win. And so the regular person can get what they want, plus all the other invisible benefit of more confidence. We talk about training the nervous system. Well, getting uprooted makes the nervous system more nervous, literally. But if we train the confidence system, oh no, I buy more time. Seconds last longer for me in the heat of battle. Because I didn't have to recover from this. I got to Barry Sanders and do this. I beat you to the punch. I get the first step. I don't have a non-contact injury. That's become epidemic. And I mean, overusage is probably the number one. But if you're going to overuse so that you can compete and forced transmission is not in your lexicon because you don't even understand it, and you're instructing people to upset forced transmission, upset fight, flight, reflexes, and response ability, it's insanity. And it's a soft science that gets hard when you measure locomotion. It's A to B, how fast did you do it? Is it faster? Is it slower? We have we have objective evidence that like you were faster. Okay. It is better if we're measuring by faster. It's better if we measure by longer. It's better if we, any metric is better, including can you get there in the face of opposition? Because that's subjective now. We're not talking about a clock. We're talking about a guy who doesn't want to let you get there because the fishing hole is good and he wants it, not me, right? He wants it, and if he can take it, he'll take it. Might makes right in the moment. It just does. It's a reality. Sorry, not sorry. Deal with it. So it's about understanding the big picture that the exercise can achieve the objective you want, 7% body fat, whatever, 58 inches on your chest or whatever the heck you want. You can get that, but you don't have to sacrifice function if you maintain balance through your locomotion. Because my training is only just an exaggeration of the attenuated version of it that's going to relate to me moving comfortably, confidently, no pain because there's no compensation to aggregate all this restriction that'll eventually cause pain that could show up here because your big toe on the other side wasn't good. I mean, it's a complex mix. So we can get what we want and deliver what people need. And once we do, as a fitness industry, united together, not infighting. And if we disagree, we don't need to fight and ignore and stop talking. right? That doesn't advance us, right? We need honesty. We need strength. It is the only thing that can save humankind, and that is the job of the fitness industry. No one else can do it.
Let's speak to the avatar of the average male, let's just say mid-30s to early 40s or whatnot. And let's really zero in on this avatar. And let's say mid to late 30s,
Okay.
in great shape, constant pursuit of bigger, stronger, faster. I want my abs. I want to look good. Maybe I want to be where Mark Bell is right now.
Yep.
Just using him as an example here. Now, let's say that person just finished listening to the previous podcast that was about the growth hormone peptides necessary to get super lean. They have a long drive.
Yes.
This podcast starts playing. They're captured and they're intrigued. And they've never thought of these concepts before. But they've caught on to, all right, so I feel great, but I don't think I'm optimizing these essential things that are going to keep me out of pain and make me potentially perform better at what I am doing.
Yes.
And now I understand I want to optimize my gait and I want to work towards perfecting human locomotion.
Yes.
Where do I start? What physical actions do I take?
What I say is that the very first step is establish what I call perfect poise to pounce balance on one foot. That means that you are instantly ready to go, right? And you're not getting tired. And it's a very specific position that the body can find when you differentiate and you tie together one shoulder and one hip as tied together as they can possibly be. And then you lengthen the other side as much as you possibly can. Now you've optimized the polarity and you can sustain a position that you can go right now. There's no delay, but you're not getting tired. You're not getting distracted because your quadriceps is burning. What you're doing is you're taking the skeleton and transmitting force through the skeleton so the rest of the body can remain fluid. And that might sound complex, but it's literally as simple. Stand on a wall, reach up, put your weight on the outside foot. Now carry a waiter's tray. Okay, now do this. Now do this. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, now let's do the other side. That's the second step. And then it's about shifting your weight perfectly so you can change where you are without ever losing your balance. If you take a cat and you throw a cat up in the air, the cat is not out of balance. Internally, the cat is not freaking out. It's just going to find the sky. It's going to do its, external, internal, and it's going to flip around, land perfect. A dog, certain dogs, if you throw it up in the air, it doesn't know, right? Oh no, and he's going to hit hard, and that would be cruel. I mean, don't throw cats in the air either, but the cat...
But they'd be fine.
Yeah, but they'll do fine, right? I mean, we have a cat that literally, I'm laying on the sofa just catching some sun rays, reading something, and suddenly the cat jumps like off the roof. I mean, percentage times of body height. I mean, it's like, what the... Mm-hmm. And then he gets in fights with raccoons. I mean, cats are cats. Mm-hmm. So I guess to boil it down, the person who's 38 years old and like they've done CrossFit so that they are like, from just the internals and the chemistry and just the look of it, you got everything, right? You can go forever. You can go hard. You look great. Well, now it's time to infuse this sort of big cat serpentine, sort of like, oh, you mean I can take all this strength and I can just, I can be like, I tap into that strength, but I'm not exhausting myself. In fact, I'm minimizing the effort to exist so that now it's like, I open myself up to more development, more potential. And like I said, a side center approach makes the center stronger. Joe Sullivan has set 6 world record squats in a row at the 220-pound weight class. I met him at like world record 4, 3, or whenever he was. He did Landmine University. That's where I met him. He learned the coil. He put coiling in as a fundamental aspect. And number 6 world record went up easier than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because he'll tell you himself, coil. Now use those coils to pack it deeper, squat more. And it's just biomechanics. I mean, technically, you're not stronger. You're just using yourself better. And anyone out there who wants to see Weck Method in motion and action, Eroding Weakness, at Eroding Weakness, Chris Chamberlain. He's my director of programming. Weck Method is not what Weck Method is without him. He's the perfect complement to me. I used to like to work hard. Now I don't like to work hard. I like to work very, very easy. I'm 55 and I've earned the capacity to be lazy and still hang with the kids on a basketball court because I got a first step and I got agility that's better than it's ever been. I'm less vital, but my coordination is like way better. And so you do that and you're already like Mark Bell kind of thing. You're on that path. When I met Mark Bell, Ben Patrick introduced us. I went up to super training. Mark's standing in the center of the gym, and I just walk up, and I'm just like smiling ear to ear. And I said, Mark, you are a big dog, and you're relatable. And I am here to help you become a big cat, and that's sexier, and you're relatable. And I said, you are the force multiplier who is 1 degree of separation from the big guys, you know, the podcasters who we all watch their clips if we don't watch the whole episode. We see 8 to 12 minutes here and there. I do every day. Joe Rogan has spoke out to a network of people with information that will blow your mind if you have the time to invest in it. Right? Just opening your mind. And it's the best we can do. It's the best we can do. Is force transmission is the key. It's the king on the chessboard. The queen is strength, right? The king is balance. And you can sacrifice some strength, but you can't sacrifice balance. If you sacrifice balance, strength is useless, right? And you only need a certain amount of strength if you can balance it. I was listening to Joe Rogan of all things, right? I listened to Mel Gibson. He's talking about fenbenzidol and how his friends don't have cancer anymore. So I order some fenbenzidol and I start taking it. And then like a few days in, I'm just like, bonk. I got hit with a joint pain that was crippling for like 4 months. I went to the doctor after like 9 weeks. I'm like, dude, let's figure out what's happening. He gave me prednisone, instantly better in 3 days. I stopped the prednisone, instantly worse, back to where I was in 3 days. And so I did all the parasite cleansing and stuff. But the point of it is, I had 4 months of weakness where I was able to find more strength because my bones are just as strong when I'm weak as when I'm strong. And if I can now use the bones, because I don't have the strength to not move the bones, if I can't move the bones, now I'm lame. I've still got to be useful in crisis. What if there's a fire? I don't care. You get shot in the hamstring. We'll figure it out. I mean, you know, there was a famous on the NFL when they do that preseason thing. When they go with the team, they went with the Browns a couple of years ago, and the coach is like looking at all these guys. He's like, "Look at you guys! You think they were stretching and foam rolling on D-Day? Like, you know, storming the beach? Hold on, I need to foam roll." No, they were more. They were less removed from the unnatural, right? And so they could do pull-ups and they could do push-ups and they could move their bodies well, right? And they weren't yet doing these like, oh, we got an anti. Oh, you're the role of your rectus abdominis is to prevent extension. Well, now high jumping is now against the rules. Throwing a javelin is against the rules. It's just this arbitrary, I'm the boss because I aligned with the science, and we can't look outside of the science circle because that's anecdote. You know, you're not allowed to consider anecdote. It hasn't gone through the peer review. And it's just so asinine. And these guys are so stubborn and they're so mean. They're so mean. And, you know, you come into the industry, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you only want to help. You're met with, like, tremendous positive feedback because stability balls were popular. And then 2007, bang, suddenly the core doesn't generate power and you got to hold it stiff. And it's science, right? Can't argue it because it's a religious endeavor now, science, right? And so I just get punched in the nose since 2007. I didn't open my mouth for 10 years because I hadn't yet drilled into it to have the goods where I can stand up in the center of the playground. I can go, come on out. You want to talk about gait with me? Come on out here in the center of the circle where all the kids in school can see, and then turn on your social media phones because every kid on the planet can see, right? And so now they're all terrified of me, which is just moments before they will comply and bend the knee to reality. And it's just by proxy to me. I don't matter. And we've reached a critical mass now where I could get hit by a bus and this thing's still going.
You've already started that movement.
What has happened is it's snowballed, okay? And this is from the very tippy top of the mountain where the snow is absolutely pristine. And now it's a snowball that's bigger than the trees. When we hit the tree line, you're just going to get a bunch of toothpicks in the snowball. And those are going to be covered up because we're going all the way to the ocean with this snowball.
Mm-hmm. And that's almost what you have to do because social media can become this echo chamber of just negative crap.
Oh my God.
And if you overpower that, you begin this movement here. So now we might actually have the people that can hear this message and go, okay, now I'm going to start incorporating this. We get more and more people doing it. The proof is in the pudding. We're seeing it more. So if we have people approaching this from that coiling aspect,
yes,
how do we get people to continue to do this and continue to see results? Is this starting with just movement, then progressing to coiling with weight? Do we need to go beyond that?
I'll give you an example. Justin James is a long drive golf champion. He came to me in 2017 in March. I think his ball speed was 211, something like that. And by September, he won the world championship with from a 211 to he jumped like 11 miles an hour and won set the record at the time for the Volvic golf long drive. And when I met him in March, it was basically, okay, well, what are you doing now? And I will see if I feel like I can help you. And he shows me all the sagittalitis stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, if you want to work with me, here's how it works. I work for you and it's only suggestive. There's nothing that I'm prescribing. So you're the boss. Okay. I'm not charging you any money. And that means that I get your likeness, I get your image, and I get you to tell the truth. And I never talk to your agent ever. Okay. Because my job is to help you squeeze more money out of the big boys. My job is not to pay you money. All right. I'm delivering something that's invaluable, which is you a better athlete. And now you got a chance to make an unfair amount of money if you want to know the truth. $750 million to hit a baseball. Okay, how much does a teacher make again? What's a gym coach make again? Right? Okay. It's out of balance is what it is, right? So bring me back. Where was I?
So he came to you, you laid out the groundwork.
So basically he came to me and I said, if you're going to work with me, there are certain things that you will not do because if you do them, I will not work with you. And I basically just took out what he was doing and I replaced it with coiling core training, bilateral torsion training, and rotational movement training. And one of the exercises that we did to give him that mass-specific force, the Barry Ross, Allison Felix, we're going to concentric only deadlift. Ryan Flaherty just basically put a trap bar into that equation that is very, very more friendly for most athletes, those especially whom are going to hinge too much and not do it well with a regular bar. So I think there's less risk and more direct athletic carryover. And what I did was I changed the setup to what we call the Weck Method 45. So your feet are close together. You're balancing on the fourth and fifth metatarsals, and that is where the weight is going. So at no point are you weighting the heel. It can hover or it can touch and you can pull a piece of paper still. That's the strategy. And basically what you're able to do is keep the spine and shin angles congruent to create a pure vertical pull. So you don't have sort of that transition from how much you're going to hinge and how much you're going to leg, right? Because a lot of deadlifts is sort of two parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trap bar is more like a squat. It's one part. And by suspending the skeleton so that the heel is not the delivery mechanism, I'm in effect leveraging the strength of the heel bone to the forwardmost part, which is fourth and fifth metatarsals. And that hover also takes care of any imbalance that my skeleton might have, because I can suspend, and let's say this one goes down a 16th of an inch different than that one, because that takes the heat off a spot in my body that if the heels were down, it goes up to the restriction, because it's just jamming the bone in. There's nowhere for the base to go. So up on the structure's got to deal with it. But by floating it this way, and Joel Smith, who is Just Fly Sports, one of the best in the business, he doesn't get into the whole slings and arrows. Like, he's way above that. But he put this 45 deadlift in his book, and asked me first to not, he didn't take it and put it in and say, hey, this is mine, which is also sort of like that's more common than not.
Right.
And so, and we did that with Justin as his, this is going to give you that nervous system to maximum so you can handle and deliver more force to the ground without more body weight and without more mass. So we still have quick. Like, I don't want you bench pressing if you're going to swing a golf club, right? Now, like, if you can't button your shirt, it's going to be hard to get into the center, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, what I did, and then throughout that process, it was always, David, are we doing enough? And I would say, Justin, is the ball going further? Yes. Okay, I don't know. Are we doing enough? You tell me, right? I'm judging by improvement, and I'm not satisfied with improvement if more improvement at a faster rate is possible. So I'm not going to definitively, you're doing, just the right amount. I don't know, but I know I'm not going to overcook this steak. Okay, Tony Holler. And I know that I care about how much he's hitting the ball in terms of distance and in terms of resilience. I don't have to ice my back after I have a good session. And golf swinging, okay, when you're moving your mass explosively on the ground and sprinting, you only have a couple reps, and then you're done, and you're doing, you're not making progress. You're actually going backwards. You start training it all tired. But swinging a golf club, it could be the 220th swing of the day that is the best shot. And I know that because Justin has done that. So it is about the fluidity of the motion so that everything comes together and you are able to harness and deliver that gravity. Right? You're catching and sending gravity. It's all you're doing. And boom, the smoothness of it. Right? And then the calibration of, what did I do wrong? Let me try something. Boom. What did I do wrong? Let me try something. It takes 200 swings to find the thing, but now you found the thing and your body's actually done it. And when the body has done something, getting back to it is so much easier. Sylvester Stallone ripped in Rocky and all the others, Rambo. He plays the top in that movie and he's fat. 3 months later, he's ripped again. And if he were only fat, he'd never be ripped.
Yep. And that's the first Copland reference anybody has ever made on this podcast. So I got to give you special props for that.
The first what?
The first Copland. The Copland is that movie. Yep. I drop a lot of references. I haven't heard that one yet. So that is perfect. Well played, sir. I want to back up a little bit to something that you just said about just in general explosive yet fluid and rotational movements. It seems to be an all-encompassing theme here. I feel like this is the best way to turn into rope flow. Can you tell us a little bit about rope flow?
Yeah.
And what you have done to bring that to the masses and how it's benefiting people, what it's doing, and really we got to start with what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell it in a way that gives aspiring inventors and entrepreneurs sort of, insight into my strategy, because it's very different launching a BOSU ball versus launching a rope flow, because a rope flow is not a proprietary tool. So you could shepherd it up the mountain like John Brookfield in Battling Ropes, And then everybody and their brother can take it and call it undulating ropes and call it, power ropes and call it battle rope. I mean, just battling ropes. And now you're going to call yours battle ropes, and you're a big place with a huge audience, and you're confusing the marketplace as to source because it's too close, but you make money, he don't. This is just par for the course. So it was 2004. I was presenting in New York City at the ECA, the East Coast Alliance Fitness, and I was promoting my stability ball that had weight inside it. We call it the ballast ball. And I had used a heavy version to help a child, or a 15-year-old, who had like 20 plus operations to remove a brain tumor and then try to patch up all the damage done from saving his life. Came to me at 15, very ataxic, had muscle strength, but couldn't stand and walk because it was just not coordinated. And I used that ball in a staircase and, balance and core training so that he climbed Mount Whitney. He lived independently in Italy. He lived in China. All he does is has, an arm brace that, in case he needs it. And so anyway, 2004, I'm promoting that. And Buddy Lee, the jump rope performer, the Olympic wrestler, the U.S. Marine, the guy is one of the best jump ropers in the world. His booth was across the aisle from my booth. And so in between, when sessions are going on, it's very boring. Right? You're sitting there and everybody's in a class. And so you end up doing, whatever. And so I started talking to Buddy, and I gave him my little quick hands bola trainer. That's an invention that I was trying to do. And he gave me his speed rope, the one with the metal handles. And I watched him perform, and I see jump, 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 jump. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take all the jumps. Why am I going to get tired? I'm taking the jumps out. I'm like, why am I going to jump? Because when I jumped rope in high school and I would do 25 minutes, I got slower at the 40. I couldn't jump as high because of low amplitude. We're going to burn the stake right here. Great for switching your feet and not moving your mass very far, but not ideal for athletics where the whole point of it is to move your mass somewhere very quickly and explosively. So I was on the plane back to San Diego from New York, and I'm thinking to myself, as soon as I land, I'm in my backyard and I'm training because 30 days, I'm not jumping. I will not jump that rope in 30 days, and I'm going to get just as good as Buddy Lee. And I got a chance because I don't got to jump. So I started that training, and instantly I was like, okay. I had studied martial arts, started when I was 26 years old. It was Wing Chun in Manhattan. The instruction was terrible. And I line up. All right, chain punches to the sternum. Okay, shift. Chain punch. What are we doing? He's just punching me? This is training. And then, some unconfident guy who's been in it 3 or 4 years is, Tansao, Bansao. How do you know where you are if you got no reference? And he's not any good either. You can't feel a master. So anyway, I didn't think it was bad instruction. Well, I thought it was bad instruction, but I had no idea what good instruction could do. So I was like, I missed it. If I want to be a ski jumper, I should have done it when I was 5 because now I'm 26 and, whatever, I missed the boat. And then I start manipulating the rope, and I'm like, I'll tell you what a tansao is. I'll tell you what a bansao is because I can do them and I can change them and I can cross and uncross. I got hands, and they're integrated with my body. And so what I did was I found okay, when I don't jump, I get a systemic load explode, right? It's not syncopated. If I'm going to jump the rope, hands down, feet up, I don't go far and I syncopate. But when I'm flowing, I have to rotate and I get beat. And as a priority, learning the beat comes before learning how to syncopate your beat. If you want to be there is a priority, okay? It's more important that you understand systemic beat with rotation, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started that. And I did invent a prototype with these springs that would make learning the movements easier, but rope flow wasn't a thing yet, and nobody cared except for the few people who did, who trained with me personally. And I just spoke out. There were, thousands of people doing it. And I sold a rope DVD and a rope and all that stuff, but I never invested in it the way I did with the BOSU ball because the return would never be there on the product side. So
Right.
someone would just walk away with it and take it from me. So I'm just, it's part of my training. If you do my training, you do it. And I'm not going to push that. I'm going to push stuff I can make money on. And what happened was, it just kept on growing very slowly. And then COVID happened and suddenly all the water vapor condensed in and started raining rope flow. And in Asia, they have great deference for ancestors, right? They have great lineage appreciation. If you look back in Western culture, 200 years, you see a different picture. China, you look back 6,000 years, it's the same. Right?
Yep.
So basically, that started to take off, and the people practicing it the most would always credit me in the post. The father of rope flow, and they call me Sir David. I mean, it's just cultural, and it's sort of weird, but if that makes them feel good, it makes me feel good, right? I don't require it, but it's a gesture of appreciation for something that fundamentally changed their lives for good. And so now people are just seeing it, and social proof is everything. I mean, what makes Pokemon popular? Social proof. The kids are now falling off cliffs trying to get some imaginary Pokemon, right? Social proof is everything. If you see it, you see it, you see it, you see it, it's a thing, right? It's a thing. A BOSU ball's a thing, right? I mean, they're never going to stop selling BOSU balls ever unless the world ends. And it's just a thing. It's, and so rope flow is now a thing. And now we have the big, strong, athletic guys doing it. So you can't accuse it of being, he's a sissy. Oh, that's dope flow. All they like to do, the hippies, they smoke pot and roll the rope at the beach, and they're not strong. But now I got the strong guys, like stronger than strong guys who can fight. Because it used to be for me, high school, the fight was a bunch of posturing. We were gorillas, right? We're not going to get lethal. All we're going to do is posture and bump our chests and maybe throw a punch and then get into a wrestling match, and then the fight's over. One kid's crying and the other kid won. You know what I mean? It was just fake. It wasn't real, right? So basically, if you can handle yourself, for me, that comes before even how I look, because I'm 55. If I'm 15, I still care much more about how I look, but how I feel is going to affect the intangible how I look, the pheromonal confidence that when a man walks in a room, he either has presence or he doesn't. If he has root and authority, well then Jesus, you can sense it. I can walk into an NFL locker room and not be intimidated by anyone. I can have Barry Bonds in my lab and I can have a conversation to him where I'm like, okay. It was a funny conversation, very funny.
Oh, I'm sure.
He asked me how much I had to pay him to talk about one of my products. I said, Barry, it is zero. And pay you nothing, a goose egg. I don't need you. My job is to make guys like you get more from Nike. Are you kidding me? And then pregnant pause. And then fist bump. I love you, man. I just made my fist and bumped it, because if it kept on going, we're going to talk market value. All right, how much should I pay you? Maybe, poster boy for what? Hall of when? Does anyone like you? Maybe I should pay you not to talk about my product. I'm just saying that if anyone attacks me and it has anything to do with human movement, that is a very stupid thing for someone to do, because you will be embarrassed until you agree with everything I'm saying. Because I don't say shit about stuff I don't understand, and I will qualify it if I don't understand it.
Yep.
I'm exploring the shake right now. Guys are getting in a position and they're, you see them quivering and stuff. I've trained my whole career to not quiver, to have the force being like, I'm here poised to pound. I ain't quivering and going to upset dinner. We're going to have to eat something else. We're vegetarian tonight. No way. So anyway, I'm not going to just condemn it.
Right.
I need to explore it. So I'm getting into a position, and it takes a while. I can't just turn on a quiver. I'm patterned against quiver.
Right.
So I'm going to go in, explore, quiver, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make me better? Does it make me worse? Now I'll be able to study it further from an informed perspective that is personal.
Exactly.
Because if I'm going to describe orange juice to you and I never taste it, well, then what good am I in terms of telling you what orange juice is?
You want to put in the time and you want to do your work and you want to do your research and you want to experiment to put your best foot forward.
Yes. And so much, I mean, so many people have been neutered by this fear that like all the crabs in the bucket are going to attack me if I even try to speak up. I was nervous about that stuff. Putting anything underneath my heels in high school in the 80s to squat, that was considered absolutely forbidden. You are the biggest loser. You're a weakling if you put anything under your heels to squat. It has to be heels down and it has to be to parallel. Don't got to go deeper. I'm talking 1980s. And I had an ego problem where I couldn't not go heavy on squat. And I needed a specific bar that was, the bar that's psychological. I had to wear 2 pairs of too tight sweatpants as my lifting suit. And I have to be bouncing like 405 plus 50. So 455, like in that workout, I will clang those weights and get 2 or 3 reps with that much load. And I did it the way you're supposed to. And I have imbalance from a surgeon who fixed a break by breaking it worse. And then the tendon came off because he did such a bad job. So look at my arm. And if you feel right here, it's hanging on by a thread. And I'm playing football. So if you don't have a tricep, you have to like coil and use the lat on that side. It's just what you do. And you'll figure it out because you have to. And that put my body so out of balance, 500 pounds on your back, twice a week. I have replaced hips. I've lived very hard. And I put an imbalance so deep in me that if you look at my teeth, like right there, this one, God, this camera's like, no, this one here is lower. And like my mouth isn't straight because when I was 18 in college, 19, I got hit in the jaw playing basketball and it sort of like kunk. And then my teeth were like that. Sorry, that one of them became normal. And then I had a Rolfing session 25, 30 years later, session number 7, rubber gloves, lick my fingers. What the hell's happening? He goes into my face through my nose. He starts playing around with the stuff in there. Boom. My jaw suddenly adjusts back to where it started before this thing. And now my teeth don't bite normal because my body, the structure dictates the function, but the function over time transforms or deforms the structure. Right. So, I mean, it's like, and I didn't know any of this stuff until sort of post BOSU ball. And I was the kid in 1984 looking through microfilm at the library just to find an article with 3 paragraphs about plyometrics. When I was 14, I met a pro soccer player who showed me like, here, do these jumps up the stairs, do these on a bench. And I did them religiously and I dunked the volleyball and I ran a 4.6, right? And if I knew what I knew now, I'd have run a 48, 400. I ran a 50 point. I never broke 50. And I'd have been a 4.5 40, no question. And I'd have dunked basketballs, not volleyballs, right?
Right.
So, but we weren't doing dumb stuff yet back then. It always was, I guess, you were sagittalitis for sure. Like, I did 7 different kinds of bicep curls because that's what you did at the YMCA in the 80s. Right. Right.
We all did that at one point.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's not the worst thing in the world that a teenager could do. I mean, if you like it and you want to get big, that's fine. But we still did the big stuff, the squats, the deadlifts, the stuff. And then we went in the gym and tried to dunk. We went in the wrestling room and did all sorts of pull-ups and different stuff and broad jumps. And then we go in the hallway and we'd race each other. So we were cross-training in terms of like the speed, the power, the agility with our weights because we do it at the same time. It just was the thing. And when you're competitive, that's when you get out of your own head, right? It's before the race and the anticipation where you're like, oh no, if I lose to him, I won't be able to live with myself. But then when it comes time and it's, who's saying go? You're not, he's saying go. You have to agree on the start.
I think in that game time application and then the subsequent preparation that you put in from the experience and wanting to dive in and learn all these little intricacies and details, we tend to find that it's these little subtle things that we want to almost hyper focus on that can make all the difference either for the good or for the bad. And you had one quote. I'm going to have to read it because I wrote it down. I was listening to another podcast with you, and I don't even think you meant to make this specific quote, but it resonated with me. And before we end the podcast, I would love for you to speak on this. And you said, and I quote, "The human capacity is far more than what we would ever give ourselves credit for." In your opinion,
yeah.
How much more are we capable of than we actually realize in a world where we're paying attention to all these nuances fully?
Well, I'm not sure when I said that, but now post-pandemic and post all the nonsense and post, we're going to all agree to be irrational now, right? Boys are beating up girls in the Olympics and we're going to cheer. If I'm the father, that kid's getting his.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You and me both.
If we're going to allow and then condone and then praise that kind of behavior where, I can't win as a man, so I'll go beat up girls. That is an indication that society is doomed. Because you can't sustain a society if that's what you're going to allow, because where are you going to draw the line? Right? Yeah. So what I would say is that now, in light of all of sort of this mystery and AI, and are we in some kind of a matrix? You watch Joe Rogan enough, you'll start to be courageous enough to just ask certain questions. And if you can't ask the question, it means you're a wimp, because you don't have to solidify an answer. And if you're honest and intelligent, maybe you can hold two opposing thoughts in the mind for a little while, bat it back and forth, and see what you actually believe. So I think that remote viewing and certain ethereal connections and reading the talismans and, okay, we're going to burn the stick and touch the tortoise shell. And if the crack goes this way, we go that way. And if the crack goes there, we go that way. I'm tracking an animal. I've lost it. Where is he? Okay, let me be the animal, dowsing rod, all the weird stuff that a lot of people exploit with the phony presentation of it that makes us very suspicious of all of those type of claims. I think that it could literally be anything, to the point where there could be multiple realities and you're just a slice of who you are across a bunch of them. And maybe there is some kind of a connection that can sort of transcend the flesh desires and necessities. Maybe there is a guy in Tibet who's just eaten air and he's been in the mountain for 20 years. I don't know. But what I do know is that the basics of right here and right now, if I can achieve just tensional balance through my bones, I can move with enlightenment, because we all carry sticks, carry water, bones, blood, lymph, fluid, muscle, bones, blood. And enlightenment is carrying the water with the sticks, because the bones are strong. When you're asleep, when you're sick, when you're strong, your bones are just as strong in an immediate sense. You go into space, I think you're deossifying and the instant you're there, but there's a time frame in which you could even measure the degradation. But I think it's a now happening situation, right? And if I'm sick with 105-degree fever and I'm in the field of gravity, my bones are just as strong as they were yesterday. And if now I can learn to arrange, manipulate, and use the bone structure by getting out of the way of forcing something and gripping and grinding, there's a place to grind. But if you haven't figured out flow and you grind, well, you're only moving yourself behind the 8 ball in terms of flow. So I think the human potential is essentially perhaps unlimited. I'm not afraid of dying because I have a relationship with God, Jesus Christ, You know what I mean? And I have a very unique relationship, and that relationship is confirmed for me every single day of my life. And it's like I need that confirmation to keep on having the faith, but I see it so much that now it's my new normal. Like I see evidence that I am aligned with the lineage of Moses, of David, Christ. Moses was a badass. You kidding me? He was a badass. David was a badass. And Jesus is the ultimate badass who can Tai Chi everybody, kick your ass without hurting you, only helping you. Woo-hoo-hoo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, my answer to that is there's a lot of mystery. I'm not going to pretend that I know what I don't know, but I'm not going to cut myself off at the knees and say, Sam Harris, we're just some galactic accident. This doesn't matter. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? I don't care I don't care what your IQ test says. I think you're an idiot. I think it's a bad strategy. And I think you're only making the world worse, frankly. Like I'll say that. I'll stand by it.
No, I agree with that 1,000%. And if there was a best answer to that question or to that statement, and maybe that would be the best follow-up, that would absolutely be it. David, this has been such a fantastic conversation. And, my mind is just spinning, wanting to dive in for more. But for anybody at home that wants to dive more into your work, where's the best place we can find what you're doing?
Okay. A year or two from now, it's going to be right down at the end of the block. Knock on the neighbor's door. They're going to answer it with perfect balance, right? Yeah, and the knock is going to ring. Oh, ho, who's knocking at the door? Right? But for right now,
in the meantime,
in the meantime, literally in the meantime, before humankind is set free, it's just, it's so preposterous. But weckmethod.com, you can find our work. There's a lot of free education. There's the products and such. And then the David Weck on Instagram and X, that's where I sort of hang out, is at the David Weck. And I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel that was set up years ago. There's probably 6,000 followers, but I don't really post to it. But I think my information sort of requires the expectation that we're going to do a little long form. So I'm going to do that on YouTube. And when you have mailbox money, procrastination is possible. And if you're a perfectionist, well, I've been saying, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. And because I don't have to, I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll go in the backyard and roll a rope and figure something out.
I'm guilty of the same. Like, I cannot tell you that enough. David, this has been so amazing. Everybody, please dive into this work because I've been deep diving recently. And let me tell you, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I just got my order in today. I wish I got my products in a little bit earlier so I could ask you even more questions about them. But I think right after this, I'm going to rip those boxes open and start messing around with the ropes and with the mace, and I will follow up with some more feedback for you on that.
Where Ladies are you located? Where are you located?
So I'm in Sarasota, Florida.
Okay, Sarasota. Well, I used to vacation in Fort Myers in Sarasota because my grandparents were there. Every Christmas growing up, I was down there.
That's the area. I doubt it's really changed much.
I know they extremely well. And I go to the East Coast of Florida a whole bunch because we have a whole contingent there. But you are invited to the Weck Method Lab in San Diego anytime you want. And the next time I'm in Florida, I will try to make especially when I go to Tampa, right?
Yep. I'm in Tampa all the time. You just let me know when I'm there.
Well, we'll meet either at your place or at Diesel Athletic. Athletic, best in baseball. They're amazing. And I go down there with some frequency. So you and me are getting together in person. And we're turning the camera on, baby. We're turning the camera on.
I will be there first thing in the morning. Whenever you tell me to be there, I'm there with the camera guy, with the film crew. You just say the date and I will absolutely be there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the DDT Method podcast. Thanks for watching.